Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at gratitude,
Gratitude. Yeah.
specifically as it relates to faith and the Bible.
Oh, very cool.
And our jumping off point is this blog post called From Grumble to Gratitude, Turning Complaints into Praise.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're going to kind of look at, we all complain, right? Like
Right.
everyone complains.
Yep.
But what if we could transform those complaints into gratitude?
Yeah, and I like how the source material kind of connects gratitude to faith. And so we'll be looking at, how can a grateful perspective impact our relationship with God?
Exactly. Yeah, and to do that, we're going to travel all the way back in time to ancient Israel to see a powerful example of how complaining can affect things.
Okay, let's go back in time.
So picture this. The Israelites, they just escaped slavery in Egypt. They've seen miracles right and left.
The Red Sea parting. The
Plagues. Yeah, I mean, talk about divine intervention. And to top it off, God's providing them with food every single day.
Mm.
This bread-like substance called manna.
Yeah, the bread from heaven.
Literally bread from heaven. But if you read Exodus 16 and Numbers 11, you'll see that they're not exactly thrilled with the menu.
No, they're not.
I mean, they actually start complaining about the manna and longing for the food they had back in Egypt.
It's funny because they're longing for the good old days, but they were slaves.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, remember those good old days when we had to work for Pharaoh? Those were the days.
Food must have been really good.
I guess so, right? It's like they're totally overlooking the miracle of their freedom in this daily provision.
Yeah, I think it shows a lot about human nature, right? Like we tend to focus on what we don't have and forget to appreciate what we do have, what's right in front of us.
Yeah, and it gets even crazier. There's a part in Exodus 16 where they actually say they wish they had died in Egypt
Wow.
rather than face their current situation.
That's pretty intense.
It is intense. They're complaining. It's like it blinded them to God's care.
Yeah, and I think what this shows us is ingratitude. It can really make us blind to God's blessings, and it makes us focus on what we lack instead of what we have.
Exactly. So their complaining wasn't just about the food.
Right.
It was about something deeper, like a lack of trust in God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It reveals this fear that God's not going to take care of them, even though he had proven himself over and over.
Right, like we saw you part the Red Sea, God, but can you make us a steak?
Yeah, exactly. It makes you wonder, how could they doubt him after all that?
I know. So what happened? Did God just ignore their complaints?
Well, he definitely didn't ignore them.
No.
He was not happy. In Numbers 14, you see God's anger at their lack of faith, and he declares that that entire generation who grumbled, they wouldn't enter the promised land.
Wow. That's a huge consequence.
It is a big consequence. And, it really shows that their complaining, it wasn't just about food. It reflected a deeper distrust in God's plan.
So it wasn't just some minor annoyance to God. This was a serious issue.
Absolutely. It was about a fundamental lack of trust.
Right? It wasn't just what they said.
Yeah.
It was about what their complaints revealed about their hearts.
Yeah.
So they're complaining their lack of gratitude. It actually pushed them away from God.
Exactly. And, this idea, it's not just some Old Testament relic, the Psalm 95, which was written much later. It still reflects on this event and God's anger at the Israelites' stubborn hearts.
Wow. So their lack of gratitude, it echoed through generations.
It did.
It's like a cautionary tale for all of us.
Right.
Reminding us how complaining and ungratefulness can damage our relationship with God.
Absolutely. It can push us away from him.
But you said this isn't just an Old Testament thing.
Right. It's not.
Right.
This struggle with gratitude appears throughout the Bible,
Okay.
even in the New Testament.
I'm really curious to hear how this plays out in the New Testament. So let's dive into those stories next.
Okay, let's do it. Well, one that comes to mind is the story of the 10 lepers.
Okay.
In Luke 17, Jesus heals all 10 of them, but only one comes back to give thanks.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one. You'd think that after such a life-changing miracle,
Right.
all 10 of them would be like running back
You'd think so.
to express their gratitude.
Yeah.
But no, just the one guy.
It's kind of a head-scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why. But it does highlight something about us as humans. We tend to get so caught up in the excitement of a blessing
Yeah.
that we forget to even acknowledge where it came from.
It's like we're already looking ahead to the next thing,
Right.
and we forget to be thankful for what we have right now.
Exactly. Like you get a new phone, right?
Yeah.
And at first you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But then after a while, it just becomes normal.
It's just a phone.
Yeah. And you forget how amazing it is to even have a phone in the first place.
That's a great example. And it makes me think about Romans 1,
Okay.
where Paul says that ungratefulness can actually lead to idolatry.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. How does that work?
Well, when we're ungrateful, it often means we're focused on what we don't have.
Right? Like we're thinking about all the things we want, all the things that we think will make us happy, and we end up putting those things above God.
So it's like we're replacing God
Exactly.
with stuff,
With stuff.
with possessions.
Yeah, and we forget to appreciate what God has already given us.
You know, and it's not just material things, right?
No.
We can idolize achievements, relationships,
Yeah.
even our own sense of self-sufficiency.
Right. I did this all on my own.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it all goes back to God.
absolutely. And that's where gratitude becomes so crucial.
Okay.
It reminds us that everything we have is a gift from God.
It realigns our focus.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've seen some pretty serious examples of what not to do.
Right.
So what does the Bible say about how to cultivate gratitude?
Well, thankfully, the Bible doesn't just highlight the problem.
Okay.
It offers solutions as well.
Good.
And it's not just about saying thank you more often.
Right.
It's about a deeper heart change.
Okay. So where do we even begin?
You know, it can feel overwhelming.
To think about like transforming your whole attitude,
Yeah.
but it starts with small steps.
Okay.
Recognizing that gratitude is a choice. We might not always feel grateful, but we can choose to practice it.
So it's like exercising.
Yeah.
You might not want to go to the gym,
Right.
but you do it because you know it's good for you.
Exactly.
So what are some of those exercises for gratitude?
Well, the blog post gives some good advice. One practical step is to focus on the creator, not the creation.
Okay. So instead of getting caught up in the stuff that we have,
Yeah.
we should remember that it all comes from God.
Right.
And that's where our gratitude should be directed.
Exactly. It's about seeing God's hand in everything.
Okay. So instead of just being excited about that new phone,
Right.
I can stop and thank God for the technology that makes it possible,
Yeah.
for the people who designed and built it,
Mm-hmm.
and for the resources that allowed me to buy it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing God in all the good things we enjoy.
Oh, that's a good starting point.
It is.
So what's another step?
Well, another powerful practice is to remember God's past faithfulness.
Okay, so looking back,
Yeah.
we're remembering how God has come through for me in the past.
Exactly. When you face a challenge or you're feeling ungrateful, take some time to reflect on how God has shown up for you before.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
It's easy to forget all those times
it is.
when God came through for me, especially when I'm facing a new problem.
Right.
Okay, these first two steps seem doable, but this next one feels really hard.
Okay.
The blog post talks about giving thanks in all circumstances.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it when things are going well,
right.
but how can I be grateful when things are falling apart?
That's a great question. And that's where gratitude becomes a truly radical act of faith.
Radical how?
You know, it's easy to be grateful when life is smooth sailing,
Sure.
but choosing gratitude in the midst of hardship, that's when it really shows our trust in God.
Okay, but how is that even possible?
Yeah.
Like, how can I be thankful for pain or loss or disappointment?
It's not about being grateful for the hard things themselves.
Okay.
It's about being grateful for God's presence in those hard things.
So even though things are tough,
Yeah.
God is still there,
He is.
and he's still good.
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes giving thanks in those tough times
Yeah.
might just be a simple prayer, just saying, God, this hurts. I don't understand,
Yeah.
but I trust. I trust that you're with me.
So it's not about denying my feeling
No.
or pretending everything's fine.
No.
It's about focusing on God
Yes.
and trusting that he's working things out,
Yeah,
even if I can't see it.
exactly. And you know, sometimes those challenging times are where our faith grows the most.
Because we have to rely on God more.
Absolutely.
You know, this whole conversation about gratitude,
Yeah.
it's making me think about some of the parables that Jesus told,
Oh, interesting.
like the parable of the prodigal son
Okay.
and this story about Martha and Mary.
Yeah.
It seems like both of those stories have something to say about gratitude
Mhm.
or the lack of it.
You're right. You're right. Those are great examples. They really show us how sneaky ingratitude can be and how powerful it is to choose a grateful perspective.
Yeah, let's unpack those. So let's start with the prodigal son. I think a lot of people focus on the younger son,
Right. The one who runs away.
the one who runs away and wastes all his money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm actually more interested in the older brother.
Okay. Oh.
He stayed home,
Yeah.
did all the right things. But when his brother comes back, he's not exactly thrilled.
No, he's not. He's actually filled with resentment.
Yeah, he's bitter. He even complains to his father about how unfair it is.
He's like, I never even got a goat to party with my friends.
Yeah. And meanwhile, his brother gets this huge welcome home party.
It's like he's saying, where's my reward for being the good son?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's so focused on what he hasn't received
Yeah.
that he completely misses the point of the celebration.
He's missing the joy of forgiveness, the reconciliation.
It's like he's blind to all the blessings he already has.
Absolutely. Because he's so focused on what he thinks he's missing.
Which kind of brings us back to the Israelites in the desert.
Oh, yeah, good point.
They had freedom God was providing for them, but they were too busy focusing on what they thought they lacked.
It's like this pattern keeps repeating.
Yeah, throughout history,
Yeah.
we get so caught up comparing ourselves to others,
Right.
focusing on what they have that we don't.
And we forget to appreciate what we do have.
Okay, so let's move on to Martha and Mary.
Okay.
How does their story fit into this theme of gratitude?
Well, in Luke 10, you've got Martha, who's busy preparing a meal for Jesus and his disciples.
Okay.
And then you have Mary just sitting at Jesus' feet listening to his teaching.
Yeah, Martha's getting a little stressed.
She's getting frustrated. She even complains to Jesus.
Yeah, like, tell Mary to get up and help me.
It's understandable, though, right?
It is. She's feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, she probably feels like she's doing all the work.
And she is. But it's like she's so focused on the tasks, the serving, that she misses the bigger picture.
She's missing the opportunity to just be present with Jesus.
To just soak it all in. And Jesus actually points this out to her.
He does. He tells her that she's anxious and troubled about so many things.
But Mary has chosen the better part.
Yeah, just sitting at his feet, listening to his words.
So even though Martha's doing good work, serving Jesus and his followers,
Right.
she's missing the true blessing.
That intimacy with Jesus.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so caught up in doing things for God
Right.
that we forget to just be with God.
That's so true. And it reminds us that our relationship with him isn't about what we do for him. It's about who he is.
And how much he loves us.
Exactly. Gratitude flows from that understanding.
Okay, so back to that verse in Philippians about bringing our worries and requests to God with thanksgiving.
Ah, yes. Philippians 4:6-7.
It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God.
It's like instead of letting worry consume us,
Yeah.
we bring everything to God, but with a grateful heart.
Even when we don't understand what's happening,
Yep.
we can still trust in God's goodness and wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a powerful antidote to complaining.
So this whole deep dive has really shown us how important our perspective is.
It has. We can focus on what's wrong.
Or we can focus on what's right.
Yeah. On God's goodness, his provision, his love.
And that makes all the difference.
It does. Gratitude is a choice.
Yeah, it's not just a feeling.
Right.
It's a spiritual discipline
Yeah.
that can transform our hearts.
Absolutely.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay.
What's one small thing, even in the midst of your challenges, that you can be grateful for right now?
Yeah. How might focusing on that one thing change your perspective?
And bring you closer to God.
Gratitude is powerful. It can really change our lives.
Let's choose gratitude, trust in God, and let our lives reflect His grace. Thanks for joining us.